Hi guys, welcome back to my second YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about why I ran away from home. So before we start this video, I do want to say that all of these things did happen a while back, years ago, and everybody that was involved in this story has changed, and we're all in different parts of our lives now. I'm in a different part of my life now, and nobody's upset, angry, or mad anymore, and we've all moved on past this. I just wanted to say that before I get started with the story time. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about is why I ran away from home. So when I was younger, I have lived in the house with my parents, my mom and my dad, and I had a little brother. His name was Thomas, and then it was just me. And I am the oldest sibling, so I'm 3 years older than my younger brother. And growing up, I did grow up in a kind of more less income family. And my mom, she did work very hard, and she always had a job and was providing. And my dad, he had his own special type of job. Let's just say he's an entrepreneur. But he worked from home, and both of my parents at this time, since they were really attentive with work and stuff like that, since we are very low income, they were always working and always pretty stressed when I was younger. And so this did kind of start taking a toll on my parents' mental health, and they started to become more angry and upset with each other. They started to fight with each other more because we were lacking having money and paying bills, and just all that stress can build up and make you upset with your partner and upset with life. And me and my brother, just being kids, we didn't fully understand that at the time. But that's just a little background story of like where I came from, how my family was, and everything when I was a little kid. As I ended up getting older, our family dynamic did change. My dad's sister did end up having a baby that she wasn't able to take care of, and so we ended up adopting her when I was just the age of 11, and she was like 4 weeks old, and she came to live with us. And at the time, my parents were still like very hardworking, all of these things. And, you know, I was the oldest sibling, and so she came and she moved into the room with me. And then a couple months later, I ended up having another sister. And the thing is that this sister was absolutely like, I would have never thought that something like this would happen. So let's give a little context. So basically, my mom and my dad met when they were 16 years old. And when they met, well, okay, a little background. Basically, my mom met my dad when she was 16 years old, and he was a little bit older. And my mom also had a really close friend who was dating my dad at the time. And my mom and my dad ended up finding interest in each other, so they ended up hanging around, and then my mom got pregnant with me. But in that span of time, things did happen, and my mom's best friend, who was also dating my dad, did end up getting pregnant by my dad too. So at the time, they did not think that my mom's best friend was having like my sister. They didn't think that she was related, that my dad was the dad at the time, or anything like that. Well, fast forward 10 years later, I'm 11, and I find out that I have a half sister. So my mom's childhood best friend ended up having a baby with my dad, and that became my half sister, and I didn't meet her until she was 10 and I was 11 years old. So now that we're a little bit more caught up, this is my family dynamic. Now it's me, my half sister, my younger adopted sister, my brother, and my mom and my dad. And after time, we all ended up living in a house together. And this is kind of leading into more recent events when I was in start of my high school freshman, sophomore, and senior year. So when I got into high school, a lot of things did become different. I was living with my half-sister. We shared a room, and we also went to the same high school. So we were very close, around each other 24/7. And my little sister, she was always around. We always would take care, watch her, just all be there for each other. And my brother was the same. We were just all very close to each other as siblings, because my parents, like I said, a lot of the time are working and they're really focused on making money, and they're very stressed with work and things like that, and that was most of their focus. And so I'm not going to get into too much context about my family living situation or the dynamic, but the household was very toxic and abusive, and there was mental, physical, verbal abuse in this house. So nothing was ever really okay with my parents, and me and all my siblings did really kind of have resentment for my parents. So we all were just a lot closer to each other as we got older. But okay, that's all the background. So now we're gonna fast forward into my senior year of high school. So my senior year of high school was the most difficult year of high school for me that I ever have had. Most difficult year I've probably ever had. So basically, I was already just going through a tough time because I had lost somebody that I really loved at this time. And I've never been in a situation where I've had to grieve somebody that I was once in a relationship with. And going through that at this age was very, very, very hard for me. And so it took a toll on how I was with my family. I became a lot more distant from everybody, a lot more quiet. And it was almost like I just didn't even want to continue to be around anymore. And that's just how I was feeling at the time. So I started going to therapy at my school, and I started talking to my counselor and my therapist and just telling them about issues that I've always kind of struggled with but never really talked to anybody about. And my parents never really believed in therapy and things like that. They believed that you should be able to just suck it up and deal with it on your own. But out of all of the things that were happening, living in that house, losing somebody, and just how my mental health was, I knew that I needed help and I needed to talk to somebody that actually could give me real advice and answers and guidance. And so that's what I did. And as I kept attending these therapy sessions, I kept getting more open and more open every single time. And as I fully opened up, I started talking more about my family life, my home dynamic, and just kind of what I went through on the daily basis that played a part into why I wasn't getting any type of better. And so my counselor did end up writing CPS report after I did talk to her about these things. And it did cause a lot of issues, and I didn't know that she was gonna report anything. And so that did make my parents kind of upset. And yeah. So there was already kind of some hostility with that. And then leading on, it started around the time of my birthday. So I ended up having my birthday, and I'm not one that really likes to celebrate my birthday. But this year I was starting to plan out my own birthday party, inviting more of my friends, just doing things that I wanted to do. But on the actual day of my birthday, I was going to hang out with my family, and I was going to do things just with my family. And I told them some ideas of what I wanted to do, and my dad just came to the conclusion that we were just gonna go bowling. And I was like, I kind of don't want to do that, but you know, it'll be fun anyway. So we just decided to go. And we got in the car and he just started like overly drinking. And then he started to argue with my mom, and then my parents just started to argue, and then it kind of just ruined my mood. And then we got there and it was just like he was getting upset because he wasn't winning at bowling, and it just all kind of felt like so centered around him having fun that it took all of like the happiness away from me enjoying my time at all. And I didn't really say these things, I was just continuing going along with the night. And then we ended up leaving, and later on in the night, like my mood was kind of ruined, and I kind of didn't feel like I had a fulfilling good birthday. And so I just kind of wanted to go to sleep and lay down. I remember my mom came in my room and she was like, I have to take a picture of you. And I didn't want to take a picture, and I was like, And then she just started crashing out. She just said that I was like ungrateful, all of this stuff, that I don't care about anything, that they were doing all of this stuff for me. But to be honest, it felt like she just wanted to post a picture for her doing, and my dad just wanted to go out for his doing. And it wasn't because they wanted to celebrate me, and that's not how I didn't feel celebrated or enjoyed at all. So that definitely did start like a little bit of resentment on that day. And then the next day I went out and I had this birthday party with all my friends, and we ended up going roller skating, we went out to eat, we went to an arcade, they all got me gifts, they sang me happy birthday, they did special things to make the day all about me and to make me feel special. And I just felt so happy to have people and friends like that I was surrounded by. And then I ended up like going back home later on, and I spent quite a bit of money like for my birthday and stuff. My parents just were telling me that I needed to pay, because we had to pay like rent every single month, or not even rent, but we had to pay my parents every single month to like live there if we had a job. And so this month I had missed it because it was my birthday, and I had paid a lot for like all my birthday stuff, so I didn't feel like maybe they would let me off because it was my birthday. And my dad was just saying that like if I'm like, he started getting upset, saying that I need to pay double that month, and that if I missed a bill when I was older, that I would get kicked out of my house, and that he's never allowed to miss a bill. And I think he was just stressed because he didn't have the money to pay the bills really, and so he was kind of getting upset and angry at me because I wasn't able to help him. And then he was taking out, like projecting that he wasn't able to do something onto me because I wasn't able to do it. But I feel like an 18-year-old shouldn't have to be relied on when your parents can't pay the bill. And you don't have to be, and that's not your choice or your fault at all. And I did feel really guilty that I wasn't able to give them the money, and I felt really bad. Like I did want to be able to help, and I always did help, but just this time I couldn't. And I took it very offensively that he just was getting so angry at me when I helped every time, and just this time I couldn't. And then so they just started calling me ungrateful, they started calling me out of my name, and then saying that they did all this stuff for my birthday. And that's when I was like, well, I didn't really enjoy my birthday at all, so that plays no role for me. And they got very upset, that they started to get very upset, crash out, yell at me. My mom started to call me out of my name. And so this is where like just the toxicity of me becoming 18 started. That's kind of where this is going. And then so I kind of walked back to my room after all of this stuff was happening, and then my mom ended up throwing a bowl at me, like a glass bowl. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that was just a sign that low-key they were doing way too much, and they were just projecting all of their anger onto me. So after that I was really upset, and when I went back to school I ended up telling my counselor about this thing that happened. And then she was just basically telling me like this wasn't a good environment and all of that stuff. And now that I just had my birthday, like I didn't have to continue to live in an environment like this. So the thought in my brain was like, maybe I should move out. And so I had already kind of been premeditating like leaving or how I was gonna move out, but I didn't really have like too much things to be able to get me out of that place and that house. And I was kind of just felt stuck. So I just continued going on, and I was like, I'm about to go to college in a couple months. It'll go by and it won't really matter that much. And then, so we're gonna fast forward later on. Then it ends up being my prom night. And my prom night, I was like so excited to get dressed up, go out, all of this stuff. And then afterwards, there was supposed to be like a prom after party. And me, like all my years of high school and everything, I had just never been to a party. Like I just never have really been to anything like that. And I felt like it was just my birthday. I was 18. I'm about to graduate. Why not? And I had already been talking to my mom about like going to this party and everything. But she really like was just telling me not to tell my dad too much about it and like to come up with a plan and everything. So I was trying to come up with a plan. And then ends up coming to the night of prom. I thought I came up with a plan to like be able to do this, go with my friends, be safe. And then the whole night, my dad is just like calling me, wondering what I'm doing. Like he could probably just feel like something was being hidden from him. Which there was, because my dad, he wasn't the type of person you could just be understanding about doing things like going out to parties or being out late or just anything that has to do with stuff like that, because he's overprotective, which is understandable. But I just really wanted to go, so I was like, I want to go. And so I end up leaving prom, all of this stuff, and I think that I'm fine, that my dad's okay. My mom kind of knows what's going on, but I did switch up the plan a little bit. I told her that I was gonna go with my teacher, but my teacher ended up breaking her leg, and literally in the middle of prom she left. And she was supposed to take me, but in the middle of prom she ended up having to leave. So I was just like all by myself, and I was like, what do I do? So I ended up having to go with just some of my friends. And when I was in the car with my friends, my dad ended up saying he wanted to talk to my teacher. Obviously, my teacher wasn't there. And so my friend, I ended up putting her on the phone, and they knew. They were like, yeah, that is not your teacher. You need to come home right now. My mom, I feel like she was getting more upset at me because she didn't want my dad to know that she knew, and like she didn't want it to be her fault too. So she was just getting even more upset at me. And then it just almost felt like everybody was against us, because even my sister's mom knew, my mom knew, but as soon as my dad found out, everybody was just like, nope, we have to be on his side because he's gonna get like upset and mad at everybody. And so I ended up having to go back home that night, was barely at prom, didn't even make it to that party, going back home that night. And my dad was just like, my parents were just furious, just saying how we're this and that to me and my sister. That's just kind of what happened. And so that ended up causing more resentment and like more like awkward and anger and hostility in the house. So moving on, it's probably about a couple weeks later, and this is the day that I ran away. So I wake up in the morning and I'm ready to go to work, and at the time my mom was taking me to work, so I asked her if she can bring me to work in the morning. And I think her and my dad had been arguing the night before, so when she woke up she was a little bit irritated. And when we went outside, she had forgot the keys inside to the car. So she had to go back inside, and I was waiting next to the car. And all of a sudden, I just hear like my little sister crying inside. So I was like, oh no, like I wonder what's wrong. So I go inside to check what's happening, and my mom is just yelling at my little sister. And my mom kind of does have a little bit of anger problems, to where when she does get upset or overwhelmed, she can take her anger out on other people. And so my little sister was in my room at the time. And my sister, I have a sister that's my half sister, and she told me that my sister was just going in there to ask her to scratch her back. But my mom thought that she was stealing, but I think that's just what she was saying. And then so my mom started to yell at her. And since my mom was yelling at her, my sister started to cry. Obviously, when you yell at a little kid, she's going to start to cry. And then my mom was telling her to stop crying, like she's going to give her a reason to cry about. And then I'm standing next to my sister's door at this point, and I see my mom just kind of, by the way, if you've lived in an abusive household and you aren't okay to hear about this, you could press off of the video. But if you're okay to continue watching, I'm about to say something a little crazy. But yes, she did cock her arm back and fully slap my sister like across the face. And my sister at the time, she's only 6 years old. And she got fully slapped across her face. So then I walk up and I grab my mom's shoulder like this, and I tell my mom to stop. And next thing you know, like, I didn't even know what to see, and my eyes flashed before, and the light flashed before my eyes, and my mom started smacking me in my face, hitting me on my neck, pushing me onto the bed. She was kind of like on top of me to where I couldn't get up, and so I was kind of trying to push her off of me, but I really couldn't. And I ended up having like scratches all over me, and I had bruises on my arm, and it was just a whole lot. And so it was so loud that my dad ended up waking up, and he came out there, and the first thing that my mom said was that I had hit her. And she was just immediately probably felt like she didn't want my dad to know what she just did, and immediately felt guilty. And then so she started to get upset, call me out of my name, say that she wanted me out of the house. And then she stood over me and she kind of cocked her arm back and told me that she just wanted to like punch me in my face. And seeing that, sometimes I still think about it, like seeing your mom just want to punch you in your face for no reason, all because you just asked her to take you to work on the morning. And so yeah, she ended up leaving. My dad ended up telling her to leave after that, and she drove away. And in this exact moment, my head was so clogged, my heart was beating so fast, and I just didn't know what to do, because like I had so much resentment, already been thinking I wanted to go, and then now she's just telling me that I need to leave, and I just got beat up basically. And so I go to my room, I tell my sister I'm not coming back. I have my sister walk with me. I pack a checkered backpack, literally like a Vans checkered backpack, and just start shoving all of my things. Obviously I didn't put all my belongings in there. I literally had nothing, and I just put it all into a backpack, and then I started walking. And then I walked to my job, and when I got to my job, one of my friends was there, and she saw me, and she told me that I was never going back home and that I was coming home with her. And I ended up going home with her that day. I ended up moving in with my best friend the next day, and I had never went back home ever since. And yeah, that is why I ran away. And ever since, I ended up living with my friend for a while, moving out, and then I ended up going to college. I just finished my freshman year of college, got fully through, still had a 3.5 GPA, passed all my classes. I'm going into my sophomore year of college now, still by myself, still providing for myself, still living for myself, and that is just living proof that if I can make it out, you can too. And never doubt yourself. Never say that you can't do it, because you can. I had nothing, and now I'm better than I have ever been in my whole entire life. I feel so much more free, so much more content with myself, so much more happy. I'm able to love. I'm able to just do so much more and not have to feel so constantly clouded all the time. And if you are going through something like that, then I'm really sorry, and I know exactly how that can feel. And you're not alone, and you can get out. And just keep having the process that you can get out and push and work yourself. And I promise you, you can. But yes, if you relate to me, I really love you guys, and you could subscribe and like, and there'll be more content later on that will show. more things that I've been through, maybe more experiences that lead to like how I am in relationships because of living in a toxic household, how I was after, maybe my experience being in college. And I'll take y'all all on the journey with me. But this is just a little story time. And if you haven't watched my first video, it came out last week. It'll be right here. You should go tap on the video and watch. But thank you for sitting through my story time. This is my story. And if you want to tell me yours in the comments, I would really appreciate it. Or you can always DM me. I have Instagram, TikTok, and Snap there. And if you ever need to talk, just know that I'm here. But thank you. I love you guys so much. And join in next week for Leigha Lately. I will be posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Bye, guys.